Let's talk about all of the books that I read in May and in June. I read a total of 9 books in those 2 months, ranging from thrillers, romance, sci-fi. I hope that after you watch this video, you'll have some good old recommendations. There is a few books I'm going to be talking about today that I absolutely adored that are now my new favorites. The first book that I read is And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison. I have read a few B.K. Borison books now. I want to say 4, and all of them I have genuinely enjoyed, but haven't been 5-star reads yet. But I just know when I pick up her books, I'm going to be having a fun time. This is the second book in the Heartstrings series. The first one is First Time Caller. I read that book last year and enjoyed it, so when this one was coming out, I knew I wanted to pick it up. Our MMC's name is Jackson and our FMC is named Delilah. They're both having to report of this huge historical snowstorm that's happening, so there's a forced proximity trope that I enjoyed. And our MMC is a single parent to his 2 younger sisters who are twins. I love the way that B.K. Borison writes her kids. It's just immediately so lovable. Our MMC Jackson is a radio host, or he reports the weather for the same radio company that's in the first book. And our FMC Delilah is very eager to be taken seriously on the news station that she's working for. They always give her these like funny, non-serious, and kind of just like not highly important news, and she is very eager to be taken seriously. So when both of them, Delilah and Jackson, are put together and are given the opportunity to show like their worth ethic, their worth, how smart they are to the public with reporting the snowstorm, both of them are very eager to do it, especially Delilah. The whole vibe of being in the middle of the snowstorm was also a lot of fun. The next one that I read is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hoggle. I did not expect this book to be the funniest romance book that I have read to date. And I have read some pretty funny romance books. Like The Hating Game was the first one that I was like, this is hilarious. And I didn't think that this was going to surpass it, and it sure did. This is a lovers to enemies to lovers, and they are engaged. And there is this rival between the 2 of them that is so hilarious. But at first, I was very confused why our FMC was hostile to our MMC. But you start to learn how they got there and where they went wrong, why they started to hate each other. And the way that they fall back in love with one another felt well thought of, with good intentions, and felt like they were actually in love. I feel like when the tropes are thrown around as enemies to lovers to enemies, there's not really anything that really clarifies them to actually hate each other. And when they start to fall in love with one another, it seems kind of hurried. And this one did not feel that way at all. It felt like we were taking our time. They were learning about one another again, learning about why they love one another. Also, the self-growth, mainly from our MMC, was hilarious and super satisfying. And you'll just have to read to figure out why I say it's satisfying. It just was so good. If you are wanting to pick up a romance book that you are going to be entertained, no reading slump in sight, has the romance actually done really well, I highly encourage you to pick up this book. I rated this one a 4.75. The next book that I read is Hidden Pictures by Jason Rulak. I had some high expectations for this book. I thought this was going to be creepy and eerie and keep me on the edge of my seat, and unfortunately it did not. There was some questionable dialogue that threw me off. The way that it ended as well was pretty questionable. In this book, we are following a nanny who is taking care of this 5-year-old little boy for the summer, I believe. Everything seems well until the little boy starts to draw these creepy, eerie drawings. And you actually get those drawings in the book, which definitely is one of the main reasons why a part of me definitely did enjoy the book. It's a goat. But as you continue on with the book, they get more and more creepy. Discovering how this is happening, why it was happening, was like anticlimactic. I feel like I definitely thought it was gonna go one way, in a more entertaining way, and it just didn't. And at the very end, the author ended up doing this like plot twist that felt very out of reach and kind of took me out of the story. No, it did take me out of the story. I was entertained. I didn't DNF it. So 3-star. Then the next book is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. In the beginning of the story, our MMC ends up getting kidnapped and he has no idea why, and he ends up discovering that he was able to create a way to go to your parallel realities, and our MMC ends up exploring those parallel realities. I'm not going to say why, and I'm not going to say of course what ends up happening, but it was so entertaining for our MMC to go through these different parallel realities. It was such a mind twist, but so entertaining. And the romance that was done in this book, these two things don't make sense how they end up working together, but it was heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time. Two completely different times in the book. You are feeling so happy for the characters, and then you're also feeling so sad for those same two characters as well. The journey that we go on with the MMC is such a blast. I literally was reading on my break at work because I could not get enough. Highly encourage you to pick up Dark Matter, and I really want to read more by Blake Crouch. I would rate this also a 4.75. The next book that I read is Runaway Love by Melanie Harlow. Both of our characters are juggling so much. Like our FMC is trying to get back on her feet, trying to make her own money, trying to get her life situated after it was all blown up in her face. She is a runaway bride and she finds herself in Cherry Harbor, I believe it's called. She ends up being at the diner, and when she's at the diner with her dress still on and all these people just so curious about what happened to her, it reminded me of like a scene in Hallmark because it was just so cheesy but entertaining. And she ends up hearing from word of mouth that there is a dad who is looking for a nanny for the summer. And so she ends up being that nanny. So it's a single dad nanny trope, which I love to read about. And our MMC is trying to accept help so that he can work and have time for himself. But he is raising his two kids on his own. And the two kids in here are also twins, just like in Now Back to You, which I thought was really funny. The best way to explain this book was, it was like I was watching a Hallmark movie. It was cheesy. The romance wasn't a 10 out of 10 in my eyes, but still was entertaining. It also is like the perfect type of book when you're looking for a palate cleanser. Now to the books that I read in June. We're starting off with The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walther. I did not expect to love this book. I feel like I did when I first bought the book, but so much time went by that I started to lose a little bit of hope or that drive or that excitement to pick it up. And the moment I started reading it, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun, and it sure was. Meredith Fox, our FMC, had recently just lost her sister Claire, and she is going to be spending a week at Martha's Vineyard for a wedding. Her older cousin is getting married, and so it ends up turning into a family reunion where all of these people and extended family are coming to Martha's Vineyard to celebrate the wedding. And to make it fun, there's also the game of assassin. So they have these water guns and they have to like find each other. So there's talk of grief, and Meredith is also trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life. If she wants to go to college, if she wants to take a gap year, if she just doesn't want to go. There is also a love interest. Our FMC's cousin who is getting married, that groom's side of the family also came to Martha's Vineyard, and so that's where Meredith ends up meeting, I honestly can't remember his name. I had a blast following Meredith, exploring Martha's Vineyard, spending time at the beach, spending time with her family. The young adult, the beachy vibes, being in Martha's Vineyard, I had a blast. And I would rate this a 4.5. Then to the next book, The X-Files by Jessica Joyce. This book reminded me of Happy Place from Emily Henry because this has the second chance romance trope. It also has the wholesome best friend group vibe that Happy Place also has. But our two main characters is Georgia and Eli, and they are best friends with the person that is getting married in this book. And Georgia and Eli are the best man, best woman to the person who's getting married. But the catch is that it's a second chance romance, so they're actually exes and they are having to work together. Very pleased that I picked this book up. I'm glad that I did, and it met my expectations, which I love. The second to last book that I read is When in Rome by Sarah Adams. By this point in June, I was on a huge summer romancy kick, and I'm so happy because it really feels like the past year maybe I have not been in the mood to read romance books, or at least they haven't been hitting the way that I know they can. After reading these two books, I was in a huge like romance mood, so I picked up When in Rome, and I'm so happy that I finally picked up a Sarah Adams book. I definitely also want to read more from her, and I just love that, like, when you have an author that you have high expectations for, and you know it can go wrong, but when it goes right, you just want to keep on reading more from them. That's definitely how I feel with K.L. Walther as well, and I mean Jessica Joyce as well. I really have found a lot of new authors in the month of June, and it just makes me so happy because what is there not to love about just finding new authors that you enjoyed their writing style and their storytelling from. In this book, we are following Amelia, who is a huge famous pop star, and she is wanting to escape her hectic, kind of just like loud lifestyle, and is just needing a break. And so she finds herself in Rome, Kentucky, where she finds our MMC, who is a owner to a pie shop. Yeah, and our MMC also has, I want to say, 2 or 3 sisters, and reading about our FMC Amelia creating these beautiful relationships with the sisters was just so fun. I love that they described our FMC Noah to be this like masculine, almost in a way broody character, but who owns a pie shop and who loves to buy flowers and just like bake. It was just so wholesome. I would rate this a 4-star. I definitely want to read Practice Makes Perfect. That's the second book in this series, and I hope that I like it just as much as I did this one. To the last book that I read, it is Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. This is a psychological thriller that was so like creepy and made me so uncomfy, but it's also the reason why I picked it up. I wasn't able to guess the plot twists or able to figure out what was going to happen next. I guess that's figuring out the plot twist. But for whatever reason, I'm not like, oh my god, I love it, read it. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out why I feel that way. Unfortunately, I'm not rating it a 4.75. I'll be rating it a 3.75. We are following 3 sisters, and one of them had actually gone missing when they were younger, and someone else ends up going missing when they're adults, and these 2 sisters are actually estranged, and something terrible and awful ends up happening that ends up bringing them together. Those are all of the books that I read in the month of May and June. I really hope from this stack that you're able to get some recommendations. Like, I highly encourage you guys to read You Deserve Each Other, Dark Matter, The Summer of Broken Rules, The X-Files, When in Rome. There's actually a good amount in here that I recommend. So it was pretty good 2 reading months, if I do say so myself. Those are all the books that I read. I hope you enjoyed just listening to me yap away. That is going to be it for today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.